Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first session of our webinar series on Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. I've noticed some comments about how we miss Clippy. I just want to note we miss Clippy too. We feel that pain. So for this session, we're going to get started with Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, and we're really going to get to know it at a high level so that we can set the stage for the rest of the series over the next 4 weeks. So this is a 4-part course. It will span 4 weeks. And it will teach users how to build business applications using Dynamics 365 and the basics and fundamentals of the Power Platform. So really, this course, we've designed it to give you experience building these business solutions, and we base them on real-world scenarios. This really includes setting up your environment, building applications using our low-code capabilities and environment, automating those business processes within your business applications, and then finally enriching that business data with the artificial intelligence and analytics needed from your data. So hopefully this series will provide you with the tool set that will enable you to complete the business requirements with this newly modern approach. So without further ado, let's go ahead and meet the team who will guide you through this webinar series, including myself. So, hello everybody. My name is Kelsey Blomquist. I'm a product solution architect on the ISV success team within Microsoft's business application group. So in my role, I really focus on providing our Microsoft partners with technical guidance as they build on our business application platform. My team likes to do what we call superpowers. So when I talk about my superpower, I do really well in decorating specialty cookies. And what my most recent focus has actually been Dynamics 365 and Power Platform logo cookies. And those have been really fun to make, and they've been a real big hit within my team. So I'll take it over to James then, who will introduce himself as well.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kelsey. Everyone, my name is James Bamford. I'm also a product solution architect on the ISV success team. And like Kelsey, I focus on providing technical guidance to Microsoft's partner ecosystem, building on our business applications platform. My superpower is not quite as cool as Kelsey's, though I am able to eat lots and lots of specialty cookies. So it worked out pretty well that we managed to wind up on the same team. Otherwise, I do spend my time playing drums, as you may see behind me. But enough about me. Let's take a look at what's ahead for the rest of this webinar series. So our goal for this series is to not only teach you how to utilize Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform to quickly build business applications, but also to show you how to turn great ideas into impactful solutions. So this series is really for the citizen developer who's getting started creating business applications, to the pro developer who's looking to minimize and automate development tasks, and really anyone and everyone in between. So we want to show you how the Power Platform can provide you a simple method for users to be able to create, automate, analyze, and assist in the data in ways which have never been possible before to the average worker. To do that, throughout the series, we're going to walk through the steps to create the business solution utilizing various components of Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. Today, we're going to provide a product overview and show you how to set up a trial environment. Then we'll walk you through and get you to know the Admin Center as well as the Power Apps Makers Portal. Next week, we'll dive deeper into the Common Data Service and review both model-driven and canvas-driven applications. You'll also get an introduction to the Power Apps Component Framework, which can allow users to create and code components that provide an enhanced user experience while working with data on forms, views, and dashboards. The following week, we'll introduce you to Power Automate, which allows users to create automated workflows between applications and services, which help automate repetitive business processes. You'll learn to use data connectors to connect apps, data, and devices in the cloud. And you'll also get experience building a bot using Power Virtual Agents, which allows automation in your application. Then finally, We'll wrap up the series by showing you how to use AI Builder and how that enables people with any level of technical skill to add AI capabilities to apps and flows that connect to your business data. You'll also learn how to leverage Power BI to easily build reports and dashboards with interactive visualizations so your organization can drive results with actionable insights. So with the stage set, let's kick it back over to Kelsey, who will take us through the Power Platform at a high level.
Thanks, James. I hope that gave everyone a good understanding of the webinar series and what we'll be covering over the next 4 weeks. So let's dive into Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform and understand really what makes up our business application platform. I love this slide so much. It really speaks to the Microsoft Business Application ecosystem. Many of you may be familiar with Dynamics and our previous suite of applications. However, our business app ecosystem has been changing with the digital transformation shift we've been seeing all around the world. So previously, we sort of had siloed applications, whether that was CRM, ERP, Great Plains. These all really focused on their own verticals and were seen as separate products. But with this shift, we've created this more modular framework, which still focuses on these areas, but we can leverage them together so that you can be even more powerful, picking the pieces that suit your business requires best and utilizing them together. So you can see within the circle here, we have Microsoft's first-party applications, whether that's sales, field service, commerce, finance. Those are all the main first-party apps that we offer to our customers and partners. Now, in the inner circle, you see additional products that we have, which are insights on top of those original products. So whether that's sales insights, service insights, these provide you additional analytics and insights on those first-party applications. Underneath that, you can see our Power Platform. Now, this is what we're talking about when we say modular. You have our first-party applications, and those are built on what we call the Power Platform, whether that's Dynamics 365, your solutions, or those Power Apps or Power Automate workflows that you do to try to connect your data and utilize, that platform at an even greater presence. All of this is also built on top of Azure. So if you need to do that professional extensibility, you can take IoT, you can take your AI and machine learning or your cognitive services, and you can do the professional development on top of the Power Platform and your Microsoft first-party apps, or the first-party apps that your partners or the customers build out of box utilizing this framework. And when we talk about our business application ecosystem, we really put them in 4 main pillars. We like to talk to them as modern, right? It's a modern platform. It's very agile. It is modular. You can pick and choose as the pieces that satisfy you best instead of being stuck within a specific product. But they're unified. So if you want to use service and you want to use Power BI and you want to use cognitive services and you want to use those all together, you can unify them on top of the common data service and the data that lives in there. We also see it as being intelligent, where you can do that artificial intelligence. You can create powerful insights and analytics on top of your data right from the click of a button. And they're also adaptable because the world is ever changing. I mean, it's been digitally transformation to get us to where we are now. It's going to continue to change over time. So we need to be able to build an ecosystem that's adaptable to what the current times are. Now, if we focus in on the Power Platform, we really see 4 key products that make up this platform. And we'll dive a little deeper in on them a little bit later, but we like to think of them as analyze, act, automate, and assist. If you want to analyze your data and create insights out of that, you use Power BI to build your visuals. If you want to act on your data and build applications that allow you to do whatever your business requirements needs are, you can act on them using Power Apps. If you want to automate any of these, take the human out of the loop, really get those workflows running without you having to step in every single step of the way, you can automate using what we call Power Automate. You may have known it as Flow previously. You still create flows within here, but the product itself is now Power Automate. Or if you need assistance, if you want to build a bot that can answer, easy questions out of the box and then only bring a person in when you need, you can build a bot using Power Virtual Agents. And all 4 of these products are built on other key items within the Power Platform. And this is CDS, the Common Data Service, which James will go further in shortly. AI Builder, if you want to have AI, just a click of a button embedded within your products. If you want to create a portal for your external users who can authenticate, anonymously, or if you want to connect other data. If all your data doesn't live in CDS, but it lives in other places, you can build your own data connectors or use what we've given out of the box to connect that data and get it where you need it to go. So I'll kick it over to James, who will dive further into the Common Data Service.
Thanks, Kelsey. The first main component that makes up Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform is indeed the Common Data Service, or CDS for short. And you can think of it in really three main aspects. The first is it's a central data store that lets you securely store and manage the data that's used by your business applications. So everything reads and writes to the same database, and you don't have to sync multiple databases with duplicate data. As part of this, we also created the Common Data Model, which defines entities and relationships for all types of development. So with the Common Data Model, or CDM, we're defining these entities only once so that everyone can use the same taxonomy. And you can extend the Common Data Model to define new taxonomies, and other partners can then leverage what you've already built, which means that everything will work better together from the start. Lastly, we've created a common set of business rules and logic that makes development much simpler and faster. And you can create new logic, which can be reused across all your apps, simplifying your app development and increasing the speed in which you can deploy. So along with CDS, we've also created a data connector system to bring all the necessary data back into the Common Data Service. Before we talk about that, let's talk about what's in the box with CDS. So as a true SaaS offering, the Common Data Service comes standard with security features like authentication and auditing. It also has logic features like business rules, workflows, data features such as validation and modeling, as well as storage and integration features as well. All these features are designed to quickly get you started with building your business application, and all of them are fully extensible, meaning you can build on them over time as your business needs change. The other integral part that makes up the Power Platform is the data connector. So these are out-of-the-box connectors that allow you to extend your application to connect to over 325 cloud services, APIs, and more. We also provide you the ability to create your own custom connectors as building blocks for citizen developers to further extend their applications. So all these connectors are available up on our website. You can add to them. It's a community-driven type of atmosphere, and it's ever expanding all the time. I think the last time I looked at this slide, we had about 275 plus data connectors, and that was only a few months ago. So we're expanding all the time, and if you feel like you want to go ahead and help out the community, please do so. So now that we've covered the base layer of the Power Platform, let's go ahead and discuss the four main pillars, beginning with Power Apps.
Thanks, James. So when we think of Power Apps, I mentioned it before as the act in our flywheel, right? So this really offers a robust set of tools which allow you to build, deliver, and use your own business applications. Now, what's great about it is you can create things whether you want it to be for mobile or for web. You can do a pixel perfect representation in whichever form factor you want. Now, if you want it to be able to span multiple form factors, there is the option to use responsive design when you're creating them so that it will respond to the screen size that you currently have. You can quickly create apps, whether you use a template that we've given you out of box or you want to start from scratch, and you can create components that are reusable across multiple apps. And let's say you're building with data within CDS, you can connect to CDS right there. But if you also need data that's not within the Common Data Service, there are those 325 plus data connectors available to you, whether they're custom or they're the out-of-box ones that Microsoft supplies. And you can use those to bring data into your Power App. So once you've created an application, you can easily share it, you can manage it, you can have co-owners who can also work on that application. and you can efficiently work across multiple projects at the same time. So we'll go over and dive deeper into the Makers Portal for Power Apps, but it's a very powerful tool, like the word power, that allows you to create those beautiful apps. The second product is Power Automate. Like Power Apps, you can bring data in using those data connectors, those 325 plus data connectors, whether you create them yourself or Microsoft has them, and you can bring that data into your automated workflows. There's also over 400 triggers. So if you want a trigger to be, if you want a flow to be triggered by an email being sent from your boss, or if you at a certain time of day, or when something specific happens, you can trigger your workflow to kick off and do what it needs to do, and then deliver, an email at the end of that, or whatever outcome you want, you can set that up. It's got a nice graphic user interface that allows you to sort of add triggers. It's very intuitive. There's not much code that needs to happen. You can do expressions if you want to do deeper things, but it's very simple or complex conditional branching that allow you to get the answer that you need. You can also collaborate within Teams flows, or you can distribute them. And we do have built-in governance and access control so that only the people who you want to see those flows will see them. The third product of the Power Platform is Power BI. As I mentioned before, this is integrated data analytics. It allows you to get insights and collaboration with the data that exists in your database. So you can connect to multiple data sources across both business, across multiple different information, but you can put them in one single view. Whether you want to create multiple reports and then pin them to a dashboard so that your manager has a view of all the information they need right there in that single pane. You can also create live dashboards and interactive reports. You can filter, you can drill into different things. You can really dive deep into the information you need to know right then and there and filter it depending on who you are or what you're truly looking for. We kind of say it's similar to PowerPoint. You can drag a visual in here, you can drag it in here, you resize it, you add the colors, you add the fonts, right? You have all these visuals that you can sort of play around with within that nice drag and drop interface. And as with Power Apps and Power Automate, it also has strong governance. And so we make sure that only the people who can see those reports are actually seeing them, and specific people who are authoring the reports are able to do that. So I'll kick it back over to James, who will talk about the fourth product in the Power Platform.
Thanks, Kelsey. So the fourth product in the Power Platform are Power Virtual Agents, which increase productivity with intelligent, adaptable virtual agents that you can personalize and quickly resolve simple, routine inquiries using industry-leading artificial intelligence. They offer many benefits that include empowering you to build and maintain your bots with fresh, current content, monitoring and measuring bot performance by using conventional metrics and dashboards, and finally, enabling bots to take action on the customer's behalf. We also have AI Builder, which allows you to automate processes and predict outcomes to help improve business performance. It's a turnkey solution that brings the power of AI through a point-and-click experience. So while you're using AI Builder, you can add intelligence to your apps even if you don't have any coding or data science skills. Once trained, your AI model can generate insights such as the results of a prediction or the list of a number of objects detected in an image. You can then use those results from your AI model across the Power Platform to create end-to-end solutions that meet your business needs. So in summary, the Power Platform helps professional developers supercharge their app productivity and tackle a growing set of work requests with efficiency and ease. They can then focus on more complex capabilities through high-value work such as building Azure services, API management, functions, Kubernetes, and Azure Cognitive Services. So in addition to professional developers, citizen developers use the Power Platform to create custom line of business apps to solve their own business needs. And this further alleviates the app debt on the professional developer in the organization, fostering a new kind of collaboration and co-development model. IT then can be rest assured that they can manage any oversight, security, and governance of these apps. And if they become more sophisticated and gain traction, then professional developers can easily take them over and extend with high-value services from Azure. So now that we've got a pretty good understanding of the foundational components that make up the Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, let's go ahead and let's get started by showing you where to go to get started. So as we get going here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my desktop here. So bear with me for 1 second. Okay, great. All right, so to get started, we're going to go ahead and we're going to already navigate to trials.dynamics.com. So this will be where we will go to create our first tenant, which will be used to house our collective environments moving forward. So from here, we can just scroll down on the page and sign up. You'll get a pop-up here asking you if you're a partner or a Microsoft employee. Always try to be honest, but in this case, we're going to go ahead and click no and continue signing up so that we can show you the full experience. From here, we'll continue by entering our email address. Click next. As this loads, it's going to recognize that I already have some environments created under my email address, so I'm not going to sign in. From here, I'm going to go ahead and provide my name and the other information required. And from here, I'll give myself a company. I'm going to provide Lamna Healthcare Company, which is the fictitious company that we're going to be using for the rest of this series. And we'll make this a dev environment. And it's also a pretty big company. So we'll click next. So once you go ahead and click next, it's going to ask you for a phone number, whether you can text or call. If you click text, make sure it's a mobile number that can actually receive text. So I'm going to wait for that to come through. And then once it does, I'll go ahead and I will punch in the verification code. It'll verify. And then next, it's going to ask me to specify the domain for my business. So in this case, this will be the unique name I use to identify my Dynamics 365 tenant. Again, in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and specify Lamna Company. And I'll go make this a dev environment. We'll check the availability. It's available. So then I can go ahead and click next. So I'll give it my name, and then we'll just specify any password that I want. And then I can go ahead and click sign up. So what this will do is this will create my account, and it'll also spin up my newly created tenant with my specified domain behind the scenes. It actually is pretty quick. So eventually it'll go ahead and it will sign me in. So I don't need to refresh my browser or anything. I can just say, let's go. So at this point, it's going to ask me to pick any number of our first party apps that are available. I can click sales, I can click customer service, or I could even click all these. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to complete my setup with sales because it utilizes many of the same entities that we're going to need for our healthcare accelerator that we're also going to install. So I can go ahead and say complete setup, and then that will go ahead and that will get going. So while that's setting up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up another tab here, and I'm going to navigate to AppSource. So AppSource is our online marketplace that lets users explore and trial different business applications to enhance functionality from our existing Microsoft products. So business users can find and try software as a service apps from Microsoft or our partners. And that includes things from web apps, or also apps that are built on top of Dynamics 365. So if I select Dynamics 365 right here, I can then go ahead to the search box and type in healthcare. And the D365 Healthcare Accelerator is one of the first ones that pops up. So in here, we'll find the D365 Healthcare Accelerator. It's free to install. I can go ahead and click Get It Now, and then navigate through the various other prompts. I could also click Test Drive if you want to spin up an environment outside of your own environment that you've already created in order to explore the capabilities of the app. And this test drive is available on any number of apps that are already up on app stores. So I click Get It Now. It's going to ask me for my my information. My work email is actually going to be the email for the Lamna Healthcare company that I already created. So it would be James at healthcare, which is a mouthful to say. Microsoft.com. Okay, so then from there, I can go ahead and consent, and this will walk me through and go ahead and set up the process. So as we wait for that to install, see it's found my it found my organization right there. So then I can go ahead and move forward with that as it takes a while to install. But as we already mentioned before, the Healthcare Accelerator utilizes the common data model that is a part of the common data service. So while we wait for that to set up, let's go ahead and kick it back over to Kelsey, who is going to talk through a little bit more about the common data model so we know how these things work with the various accelerators that we already have out there.
Thanks, James. Looked like a pretty easy spin up to get a trial environment and install that Healthcare Accelerator. So that's pretty neat. I will go ahead and share my screen again so that you can see. Let me see. Go ahead and share. Okay, so when we talk about the common data model, I know that James briefly touched on this when he was talking about the common data service and said that there's a schema out of box within that service, which we call the common data model. So really what that is, it's an entity schema that Microsoft has predefined for you to store your data and use as you're building out these products. The entities are commonly used concepts such as accounting contacts, and they have complex entity relationships with each other. So for example, if you have an account that you're tracking, that account probably has a primary contact, right? So there's a relationship between that account and a contact, and that contact probably has different information such as a first name, last name, you know, their address, all of that information. And those are fields within that entity that we've defined that we feel are important out of the box information for most business products to use. So each of those entities have attribute and they have metadata that's included with them. You know, what we've given you out of box is that common data model, but partners and customers can build on top of these definitions, and they can, we've been expanding into specific vertical industries as well as our customers and our partners. So when we talk about these industry accelerators, really what they are is they're extensions on the common data model into these specific industries. And so it's a fully extensible framework, whether you want to build on top of it and ship that product, or you want to build it just for your own personal use, you can do that within the common data model. And I really want to show you this picture that we have. You can get it at ak.ms at CDM poster, but it really spells out, you know, what is the common data model? How can I understand how all these pieces work together? And if you look at the far left, you see our core. This is the core common data model. This is where you have accounts, you have emails, you have organizations, you know, those basic entities that every business needs to use comes out of box. Now, when you look at sales, service, finance, all of these are the first party applications that Microsoft creates where we expand that that entity schema into those specific industries. So if I'm in supply chain management and I want specific entities for that industry, we have a supply chain product for you to utilize that expands that entity relationship so that you can use it out of box without having to build that complex data model yourself. Now, if you look below, you see healthcare. This is our industry accelerator. So what James just installed was the healthcare accelerator. Now this will give you patient and practitioner and care plans. It'll give you all of those entities out of box and all the relationships and a sample application for you to use. So right out of the box, you have that at the tip of your fingertips. Now, the reason why we started creating this common data model really came down to where the data lived. Previously, data was everywhere, whether you had it, on your phone or in the web. If you had transactional data, if you had data from, your smartwatch, from anything that you wear. But then there's also, social information, advertising, what you bought at the marketplace. There's all this information about you and about people, but it's all separate. So really, we wanted to bring that information together. And so we needed that shared data model with those rich semantics in order to connect all those pieces. And when you look at harnessing the power of that integrated data, I'm going to take it piece by piece, and I'm going to start with Dynamics 365. If you have Dynamics, as I mentioned before, you have this account entity, right? But you may also have support cases or opportunities, these entities that are given to you out of Dynamics 365, but you want to add more to that. So if you pull in information from Office 365, if you have, those emails and those calendars, now you can tell, okay, that opportunity is associated with who, right? And when can I maybe schedule something for this opportunity? All of that data is intermingled, so you can leverage everything that you possibly can in order to get as much information as possible. Now, if you pull even more information, now you have LinkedIn data, right? So now you have the job history of that person in the email for that opportunity. You know more information about that person, and you might actually know their professional contacts. So other people maybe you can reach out to for other opportunities. And then when we bring in our partner solutions, which really is, the cherry on top, they've now extended into their specific industry, but they've utilized everything they've been given underneath. Right? So if you have those opportunities and you have meetings with those people, now you understand, maybe there's a partner solution which talks about what merchandise is important to talk about with those people, right? Or if you have trade promotions that you want to do for that specific industry, they bring all that data together. So now you have a web of all this interlocking data that you can leverage from any place and anywhere. When we talk about industries, because I've mentioned how we take these schemas and we go into specific industry verticals, Microsoft really has 9 priority industries that we concentrate on. And I've listed out the 9 here. They are nonprofit, education, financial services, government, media and communications, health, manufacturing, automotive, and retail. And these are all very high level industries, right? But that within any industry, there's actually different components. One data model really isn't going to span an entire industry. So when we're looking at data models and we're focusing in specific industries, we actually go into sub verticals. So let's say you're in financial services. The data model for insurance and what's important for all of the things that pertain to insurance is probably going to be different than if you were doing banking and capital markets. The person who comes in and just uses a bank day to day versus someone who's maybe insuring a car or a house, right? They're probably going to have different entities and different relationships that you can utilize. But our accelerators are focused on all of these different subverticals. So as time goes on, we'll keep releasing different subvertical accelerators, and we'll make sure that we're focusing in these key subvertical areas. And James and I have both mentioned industry solution accelerators. It's an extension of the common data model into that specific industries, but why did we create them in the first place, right? Really, we noticed things going into specific industry spaces, with our first party apps, that was a start. But we noticed there was more and more focus here. So we wanted to create a collective ecosystem led by Microsoft so that everyone can build on these data models and have that leveraged out of the box rather than every single person having to go recreate the wheel and recreate all of these data models. We have pre-built samples that help to decrease your costs. They can accelerate your time to market. And you can use multiple, of these data models across all the solutions. You don't have to just have insurance. You can have insurance and you can have media and communications, depending on, what your business focuses on. And we make sure to use standard libraries and templates for common industry patterns. So if you're in healthcare and HL7 Fire is an important industry standard, we make sure that we're taking all of those in consideration when we're building out that data model. And I think we've kind of talked about what they are. They really are the extensions of the common data model with these industry standards. And we've given you connected scenarios out of the box so you can truly understand the full power of what these accelerators can do. So I do recommend going and, adding one to your tenant or go test drive one today so you can see how you can jumpstart your development and understand more about those for whichever industry you're in. And we are open source on GitHub, and we're also on AppSource, so you can find us in both places. So now I'm going to go ahead and do another demo of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So I'm just going to bring up Edge here, and I've just gone to office.com and signed in. So you can see I'm signed in as my Kelsey B at Labna Healthcare company, and it kind of puts me in this home screen. Now what I want to do is I want to go to the admin section. So I'm going to click this admin button here, and it'll open up that Microsoft 365 admin. And so you're kind of dropped in the home space. You can see what maybe is essential for you, but you also have this navigation system on the left. And there is so much you can do in this space. Really, I could probably do a full webinar just on this, but we're really just going to touch on the key highlights of the Admin Center and what you really need to know when spinning up an environment. So on the left-hand side, you can see the navigation menu that allows you to accomplish a lot of common administrative actions, whether I want to manage my users or my devices, if I want to create groups and do billing. But there's also this show all. So if I open this, it actually brings up additional items for me to do, whether I want to, contact support or if I want to look at reports of my usage. And it also shows all of these other admin centers. But you can see it's not a full list. So if I click all admin centers, it actually shows me all of the different admin centers that I can go to for my applications, whether that's, Power Apps and Power Automate, part of the Power Platform we're using, whether it's Azure Active Directory or even Teams, right? I can go into any of these admin sections. So for today, I'm just going to go over a common task, something that, all admins will do in their day-to-day. When you spin up a new environment, you're always going to have to add users, right? Without users, it's not really, you can't use the environment. So if I go to see who my current active users are now, I can see myself and James. We're already here and what licenses are assigned to us. Now, if I want to go ahead and add a user, if I want to add multiple users, I can go to add a user and I can type in, another user. For today, I'm going to use Monte Kong. So Monte Kong just joined our organization and he needs to be added as a user. So I'm going to follow our current, what we do, and just do first name plus, last initials, so Monte K. And I want it to auto-generate a password. I don't want to create the password. And so, I want them to require to change their password. It will send them an email. If I want to get an email myself when they complete this so that I'm aware, I can do that. But for today, I'm not going to do that. So I can go ahead and click next. They're in the United States, but if they weren't, I could pick where they are here and I can assign any of the product licenses. So let's just say I'm going to assign them these two first. I'm not sure if they'll need Power Automate or Power BI, so I'm not going to add those yet. But I can also go deeper into these. And if I want to specifically choose things within Dynamics 365, I can do that and I can uncheck certain things that I don't want them to have. But I want them to have everything out of the box. So I'm just going to allow that to be auto checked. But here you can do more specific items. So that all looks good. I'm going to click next. And here is where I will do optional settings, which is either their roles or their profile information. If I wanted them to be an admin, I could click that here, and I could say what type of admin I want them to be. For right now, I'm just going to have this be a basic user. You know, James and I are the two admins, and this is just a user of the product. And if I wanted to add any more information about their profile, I can do that here. You know, if you forget to do this here, you can do it again later. So when I click next, I'll go ahead and review what I've done, make sure I've spelled everything correctly, the password's auto-generated, what licenses I have, you know, everything I basically just put in there, and I can edit. If I see anything wrong, I can go in and edit that. It takes me back to that page, and then I just have to make my way back to the review finish area. So everything looks good to me. I'm gonna finish adding this user. So, okay, they are now added to active users. I'll close this, and now I can see them, you know, in users and active users, I see them now in my list. Now let's say, oh shoot, you know, I actually want Monte Kong to have Power BI product licenses. So if I remember later, I can go manage product licenses and I can turn on any of those licenses I currently have, right? Now let's say you actually didn't have a license for something and you needed to buy a subscription. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to billing and I'm going to go to purchase services because I want to go purchase a new service. And here is where it will show all of the services available to you, you know, and really break it down. If I want Microsoft 365, do I want month to month? Do I want premium? Do I want standard? You know, you really can search through everything and all products, whether it's Office or business applications. Other categories that things probably based on what I've been doing. So let's say I want Power BI. And just for today's use, because I don't want to put anything that costs money, I'm going to look at Power BI free, and I'm going to get this. So I would click Get Now, and that would add that license to, you know, my subscription. So I'm just going to check out. Oh, and then I guess I would want to be filling all of this out for time. I don't think I'm going to go through this, but this is how you would go ahead and purchase services where you could put all your information, you click next, because that's required, I'm just going to cancel. So, but that's how you would go ahead and add subscriptions if you didn't already have them. Now I'm going to go back to my user because let's pretend I just purchased the Power BI Pro subscription. I want to now add that for Monte Kong. So I'm going to select him. I'm going to go manage product licenses. And I'm going to see that it shows up in my license object and my license options. So if I select that and I save changes, I've now assigned Monte Kong to the Power BI Pro license. So now they can use Power BI Pro. So I've saved and closed, and now I can see Power BI Pro there. And so that's really how you would add a user, how you would give them licenses out of the box, how you would add a new subscription, and then how you would add that new subscription license to the active user you had created previously. So now I'm going to kick it back over to James, who will dive deeper in the Power Platform Admin Center specifically.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Kelsey. All right, so let me go back ahead and start sharing my desktop. Okay. So I can go ahead and send this live. Perfect. Okay, great. So now that now we have a good idea of how to navigate the admin center, let's go ahead and let's dig a little bit deeper into the actual Power Platform Admin Center. So as Kelsey mentioned before, on the Admin Center, I can go ahead and scroll down to all admin centers. I can click here. And once I do, I'll see that I have a long list of all admin centers right here, and Dynamics 365 is right there towards the bottom. And this is where I will go to use to manage my Power Platform admin. So I can click this. This will open up a new tab and take me to admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. Okay, so now that I'm here, this is where I can go to kind of provide a unified portal for administrators who manage environments and also set up things for Power Apps and Power Automate and all the model-driven apps, etc. So currently, the Admin Center here has the following capabilities. Firstly, this is where you're going to go to manage your various Power Platform environments. We mentioned before how a tenant can be tied to multiple different environments. Well, this is where you're going to go to manage them. So in this area, you can view, create, and manage them via the bar on top. So you can do a whole bunch of different things from either creating a new sandbox, promoting a sandbox to production, or vice versa. You can create a backup, restore from a backup, copy environment, reset, or even delete one. So all those options are available to you right here in this environments page. Below that, we have our analytics, which will allow you to get a detailed view of key metrics for various Power Platform apps. The Common Data Service Analytics is going to show you key metrics like active users, API calls made during a specific selected amount of time, as well as the total operations and failures that are here for you to examine. Below that, we have our Power Automate Analytics. And what this is going to do is it's going to provide you a view into the daily, weekly, and monthly run data of all the different flows for the environment. So you can see the usage rate, various ones that have been created, shared, connectors, etc. So all that will be right here for you. And then below that, finally under analytics, we have our Power Apps Analytics. And this is going to provide a view into environment level usage, also errors, service performance, and also ways you can drive governance and change management services to other users. So below that, we have our resources section. And this is going to allow you to manage your D365 model-driven applications or any Power Apps portals that you may have installed, as well as checking the capacity that you have for your various things like your service and things like that. So you can see right here we have a lot of different apps enabled. We shouldn't have any portals installed. Actually, we do have one installed but not configured. And then of course we have our capacity, which I'm pretty sure will be over because we are only a trial environment. Yes, we are. All right. So here we also have help and support. So if you run into an issue where you need to contact Microsoft, you can open a new support request right here. Below that, we have our all of our various data management capabilities. So the first one is point-to-point integration service that is used to integrate data into the Common Data Service. It supports integrating data from multiple sources into CDS. Below that, we have data gateways management, and this acts as a bridge, providing a quick and secure way for you to transfer data between your on-premise deployments and into your cloud. And then finally, we have our data policy section, which your organization can use to create and enforce policies that define the consumer various connectors and build specific business data that will be shared with your various users. So with that, let's go ahead and kick it back over to Kelsey, who's going to show us where we can go to start creating our first Power App.
Thanks, James. Hopefully that showed you some insight into the Power Platform admin section. Now the question is, I want to go create a Power App. Now, where am I going to go to get started? Just give me a minute to get all my things in order. So now we're going to go over the Power Platform Makers portal. Now I know the URL by heart. So, I would typically just go to make.powerapps.com and I could sign in. Now, if you don't know where to go, really, if you just search for Power Apps in Bing or anywhere, it'll get you there, whether it's powerappsmicrosoft.com or here it even says make.powerapps.com. So there's Power Apps right there. And if I were to go in here and I signed in, it would also eventually take me to that make.powerapps.com. So there's a lot of different ways to get here, but this is your Makers Portal landing page. Here is what I call home, right? If I want to start building an application, it gives me multiple options. If I want to start from my data, if I want to create, a blank application and make my own app from scratch. If I want to learn more about it, this is kind of giving me key areas that might be helpful. Now, I'm going to make sure first that I'm in the correct environment. So if I go up here in the upper right, I see that it says environment and I'm in the default one. Now, this is given to us out of box, and typically it's not where I want to do my development. I went and spun up an environment called environment 1 that I want to be using to create my application. So I'm going to make sure I go ahead and switch there, because anything you create in this environment will then only be available within this environment unless you export it and import it again. So on the left-hand side, I see my navigation items. Right now I'm in home. If I want to learn more about creating Power Apps, I can go right here to the Learn tab. I can have guided learning, which will give me interactive tours and give me specific learning areas that I know I want to dig deeper in. If there's help topics I want to get information from or ask questions, I can explore. If I want to join the community and be able to ask questions out to others or answer questions that I know the answer to and help the community, flourish within Power Apps, I can join right here. So that's a good place to learn more about it. If I go to the Apps tab, this will show me everything that's available to me. Now, because we installed the Healthcare Accelerator, I actually think I get this Solution Health Hub. Well, actually might not be in this one because I would see other things. But if I were to install the Healthcare Accelerator, I would actually see other applications like the Dynamics Health 365 that it gives me as that sample application for me to use. And it also allows you to see component libraries. Now, if you're creating custom components that you want to reuse across apps, you can create a library, you can add those components here, and then you can, install that or import them into your different environments for you to use in your Power Apps. An example would be, let's say I had an app and I wanted a navigation component, like I wanted a nav bar like this almost with different icons and labels, and I want it on every page. I can create this component and then I can reuse that across multiple pages in my app or across multiple applications. If I wanted to import a Canvas app, I could also do that here, or I can spin up a new one, depending on if I want Canvas model driven or portal, right here in the app section. I can also do that from the Create tab, and this gives me a few more options, whether I want to create from blank, or if I want to start specifically from data. If I have all my data in CDS and I want to click that and start from there. Or Microsoft has pre-built different templates depending on what you want to do. If you want to look at onboarding tasks or you're a service desk, we have an application template that we've created that you can just spin up a new app and have something usable within that day. Now, if I wanted to look at my data that was underneath the covers, I can expand this data tab and there's lots of options here. So first it's the entities, and this is showing all the entities within CDS, everything that I have available to me. Now it typically filters on default, but if I want to see everything that's available to me or all the managed entities or the custom entities I've created, I can filter depending on what I want. And if I go into a specific account, or I'm sorry, into an entity, for example, account, it'll show me all the different items that I can see for that entity. Here's all the fields available to me. Here's the name. The metadata name, here's the data type that corresponds to, if it's a managed or standard entity. If it's required, account and account name are two required fields for that entity. So if they're on a form, they'll be required to have information in that box. If I want to see relationships between accounts and other entities, I can see those here. But again, remember, it's always going to be filtered. So if you want to look at everything, you just want to make sure to expand that. If you don't see data there, there's a good chance you're probably filtering. They also have business rules, different views. If I want to show my active accounts or ones, that are inactive that I'm no longer using, I make sure to, filter those appropriately within the view. I can have multiple forms. So if I just have the main form, or if I have, an interactive experience, if I have a specific form for mobile, different things like that, those all go here. You can also have dashboards. It doesn't look like this one has any, or charts. And I think what's really, and then keys as well, but what I think is really powerful is the data. You can actually see all the data that lives within these. And right now it's, like I said, filtered on my active accounts, but I can go ahead and I can look at all fields for that entity and all the data that lives within it. And so this is a really quick way to just look at all that data, whereas before you might have had to do like an advanced filter within, that classic Dynamics 365. So that's a really, quick view of your entity data and what's available here. If you want to look specifically at the option sets available to you, you can see that, the different data flows, which is flowing data in and out of Azure Data Lake. Or if you want to export data to Data Lake, you can do that here. Anything you can do with your data. And also what's really important are these custom connectors. If you want to create a connector to your own data, you can spin up a new custom connector right in here. If you, let's say you had a Postman collection or an API file that sort of gave it to you out of the box, you can import that here and it'll spin up a custom connector for you to use based off the information given in that import. Or you can just start it from blank. I want to give it an API, I want to give it the URL to connect to. I can go ahead and go through that process when I'm creating the new custom connector. And then you can use that within your application, and you'll most likely create a new connection to that. So here's where all your connections will live if you need to create a new one. Or if you're on premise and you need a gateway, you make sure to install your gateway here. So really anything you can do with your data, there's so much you can do here. What's also really neat is we have Power Automate flows embedded directly within this interface. So you can just click flows right here and you can go spin up a new flow, whether it's from a template or whether it's from scratch. You can see your team flows. You can create a new one depending on what type it is. There's a lot you can do here. And our newest addition, the UI flows. Here's a space where you can go create all of those to use in your Power App. The last two things are AI Builder. If you're going to go create AI models, you can spin up AI Builder and build something. So whether I want to do like a form processor, I have a bunch of forms in a specific format and I want to import all that data into CDS. Maybe I'm a doctor's office and I just have a bunch of new patients. I can create a form processing model, which will then allow me to import all of those documents and it can recognize what all of those fields mean. I know what that person's first last name is. I know what their address is because it can recognize what that form is. So here, we have a lot of different options, whether it's a business card reader, but I find this really awesome. I recommend going and checking it out and playing around with AI Builder. You do have a 30-day free trial that you can try it out. So you can embed it within your Power App. And once those are built, they'll show up within your models and any other ones that are shared with you. And last but not least, we have the solutions. So when you're creating an application, you're most likely creating a solution and you're adding all of the components of the solution to this. So if I were to create a new solution, and I just call it test solution, I just want it to be the default publisher, I can go ahead and create that. And if I have a Canvas app or if I have a flow or an AI model, I can select this and I can add, I can go into here and I can add different components into my solution. So whether I want to add something new or whether I want to add something that pre-exists, I can do that within the solution tab. So that is a pretty quick guidance of the Makers portal. There's a ton you can do here, and if you're wanting to spin up your own Power App, go ahead and check make.powerapps.com out and go start exploring. So let's just do a recap. What did we cover today? Really, James and I went over an overview of the digital transformation journey that we've been taking with Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, and what is all available to you in this modular, agile, ecosystem. We then demoed where you can get started setting up your environment and building your solution by starting that trial and installing the industry accelerator. We then did a walkthrough of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center and all the capabilities you can do as an admin, including adding your users, signing up for subscriptions, and adding licenses to those users. And finally, we did an overview of the Power Platform Admin Center and the Power Apps Makers portal. So I hope that that's been really helpful for you today and you've learned a lot. Next week, we'll be building on top of this. Today, we really set the stage for what we'll be diving into in the next weeks. But next Tuesday, we'll be doing an introduction to application development. Here, we'll dive deeper on the Common Data Service. We'll talk about the model-driven and Canvas applications further, and we'll be building out an application for you. And we'll touch on the Power Apps component framework, which allows third parties to create their own code components that they can embed in the forms within Power Apps. So if you want to have a visual that you're really keen on, you can go create that in code. You can import it into your environment, and then you can drop that directly on the page. So really exciting stuff coming up next. And I just wanted to thank everyone and ask if there are any questions on what we covered today.
Yeah, Kelsey. So I've been doing some answering of questions in the chat window. So what we can do is we can look through some of those published questions and also some of the unanswered ones and talk through them.
Sounds good.
So one great question was just asked is, can we build Power Apps if we just have Microsoft 365? So the answer is yes. So what we're using Power Apps for in these scenarios is we're using Power Apps to build on top of the Common Data Services where we're going to be grabbing our data from. But you can also use various other methods to build your Power App and populate it with data. One that's commonly and frequently used actually is using SharePoint as your database as a way to create and populate your Power App with data. Kelsey, did you have any other comments on that particular question?
No, not for that question.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and read through some of these other ones right here.
So I saw one here. It asked what the difference between Logic Apps and Power Automate is. People are probably seeing a lot of similarities there. So really, Power Automate is an easy-to-use interface to build these automated processes, and really it's built on top of Logic Apps. So underneath the covers, Logic Apps is actually handling a lot of the work, but Power Automate has given you that easy to use UI, so it's more for the citizen developer. Logic Apps, you can probably do deeper things as well, just because it's more for the pro developer within Azure, but they're essentially the same thing. It's just wherever you feel most comfortable building that out.
Cool. All right, I'm just searching through the questions here. Question, does this apply to F&O, also apply to customer engagement? So I'm guessing the question there is what we just did, does it also apply to F&O as well as customer engagement? So F&O and customer engagement are slightly different right now in that F&O is not using the Common Data Service as its main database, but that is changing later this calendar year in our October release, where F&O will be utilizing the same CDS instances as your customer engagement, which is can also be lit up on your same tenant. So so with that, you can utilize Power Apps and Power Platform for both in that regard. Even right now, you can still use Power Apps and Power Platform on them. It's just not quite as clean, but it is going to become much more simplified in the next couple of months with our October release.
Okay. Yeah, and there was a similar question I'm noticing here. When do we choose services in Azure versus these Power Platform services? Like, when do I choose a bot versus when do I choose virtual agent? And that's really similar to the Logic Apps versus Power Automate. Essentially, a lot of these are the same thing under the covers. It's just, are you a citizen developer who wants that, drag and drop, easy to use experience with the graphic user interface and, shorter expressions where you don't have to write actual code? then you want to use the Power Platform. If you're a pro developer and you just, hammer away and get that code out and you feel really comfortable in that space, go ahead and use Azure, right? It's just whichever space you feel most comfortable in.
Great. Another question I see here, any PowerShell management available for Power Apps and Power Automate, like importing an exported app programmatically? Yes, so you can use PowerShell scripting to automate your environments in bulk. We frequently use PowerShell scripts for our open hacks to programmatically spin up multiple environments and users on the fly. So once you have those scripts available, you can create the environment, you can assign users to them, you can give the users the necessary licensing and security roles, etc. So definitely check those out. There's tons of Microsoft docs out there on using PowerShell for Common Data Service, so take a look at that.
Okay, sorry, I was just trying to read through some more.
Sure. The questions are flowing in.
I know, this is great. I'm really glad people have questions. It means you care. So I know I saw something here about the URL used to create the new account. I was just, is that when, you, James, went and created the trial environment? Is that what they're asking for, I believe? I
think so, yeah. So a couple of people have asked the URL that I went to at the beginning. So it's trials.dynamics.com.
Okay, go ahead and answer that there. Okay. Let's see here. So James, there's a question here. Does the Healthcare Accelerator handle the need for multiple account contact relationships or just the standard one-to-N? I believe it can handle multiple, right? It can handle an end-to-end relationship is what I believe. Yeah. And if you go to the Healthcare Accelerator documentation that was shown on AppSource, that should give more information about all the entities and their relationships, but that should have an end-to-end relationship, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Healthcare Accelerator it's just you can think of it as kind of a simplified solution that's installed on top of an already extensible relationship database. So any of the relationships that you wanted to create as part of CDS prior to the Healthcare Accelerator, you're still able to create those even after you install it.
Okay. And we also had a question. So someone said they created a Dynamics trial tenant and they selected sales, but when they went to add the Healthcare Accelerator, it said they didn't have install permissions to the Dynamics 365 organization. So to send a note to your admin and add the application or sign up for a free trial and add it to that. So have you seen that, James? Do you know what they may be running into here?
Yep, I got that myself. So what that typically means is it's a goofy error because obviously you are a global admin because you created the tenant. So there's no admin for you to reach out to. What probably happened there is that you may just need to refresh your browser, close your browser, reopen it again, and sign in so that everything has kind of reset behind the scenes. And then at that point, go ahead and open a new tab that goes over to AppSource and install the accelerator. And make sure you use the correct email address, because you could use either the email address you use to spin it up, which is really just our way of making sure that you're a real person, or you could use the email address that you key in when you're setting up the trial. That's basically like your admin account on that tenant, right? So that's the one you want to use.
Awesome, cool. I'm just typing that up and putting it as a response as well, just in case anyone missed that. So I guess refreshing the browser, signing in, signing out, sometimes those just don't populate through and you have something cached you need to kind of wiggle out of there.
Cool. All right, so let's look for one or two more questions here before we wrap up for the day.
Okay, so someone did mention their company is very Microsoft oriented, which is great. Thank you. You know, we love Microsoft too, but it seems to be making accessing a trial environment very difficult. So they've tried a few times. They end up in a loop when it's trying to get into their real login. I guess what we do is I actually go in using an incognito window, just because, you know, being a Microsoft employee, I am constantly signed in as my Microsoft email. And a lot of times when I'm setting up trials, like today, I had my Lamna Healthcare Company email. So I used an incognito window. That's something I would recommend. More browsers are also coming out with profiles. So if you know how to use profiles and you make sure to add that profile, you know, you may have to wiggle like out of certain scenarios to make sure it's not using your professional email, but that would be my guidance. James, do you have anything else on top of that you would recommend?
No, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
All right, so last question, and probably the most important one. Will you be making this presentation available? Yes, we will be. We'll be making these slides available, as well as some steps for how you can go and set up your trial environment, as well as all the pointers that we've mentioned today. The video will also be available as well, so you can you'll be able to access it on demand, and I'm sure Matthew will have a few more pointers on that one.
Awesome. There was one more that I felt was kind of important. I just wanted to touch on. So someone did ask if there's a plan to create a recycle bin for Power Apps. They had worked on their first app. They spent a lot of time on it, but they didn't have the correct security in place. So a coworker accidentally deleted it, and then there was no way to bring it back. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's definitely something frustrating to spend a lot of time on something. As of right now, I'm unaware of a recycle bin, but we'll make sure to follow up with the product team. I do want to say, you know, what might be a good idea is from time to time to export your Power App so that you have a version of it, you know, whether it's in the cloud or wherever you may save that file, but just so you have it, just in case that were accidentally to happen again. But I do recommend trying to set up all of those security features right away so that, you know, you're the one who has full control over your app and it can't accidentally be deleted by anyone. But I think that's a great idea, and we'll make sure to bring that up with the product team. So I hope you guys have learned a lot today about how to start up your environment. I'm really excited for the next 3 parts, which will dive deeper into creating applications and utilizing all of those Power Platform capabilities in order to build something robust for your company. Any last words of wisdom, James?
Nope. No final words of wisdom from me. Thank you all for joining our webinar series, and we look forward to seeing you in our next couple of webinar series as well. So we'll be back next week around the same time, and yeah, we'll be talking a little bit more about CDS and model apps, Canvas apps, and Power Apps Components Framework. So I'll sign off, and I'll let Kelsey sign off too.
Awesome. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We look forward to seeing you again next week.